Okay, so we discussed about the Denodo Assistant chatbot in the data marketplace and the capabilities that has been added. This capability actually takes Denodo's conversational AI capabilities to the next level, and this provides business users or non-technical users tools that they have not had before. So on the right bottom panel, as you saw, you can launch this chatbot from there, or you can also launch it from the search bar. And the first example we discussed was that of a health insurance agent, and the data set that would be used is sample health insurance, as you can see on the left pane. So previously we have had assisted query, and let's say this insurance agent asked a question like, give me the total amount of claims processed for the member M0091. So they would have to navigate to the view and then perform this task and execute the query to extract the results. Then again, this would be only limited to like associated views, the joins or the limitation there. However, with the introduction of this chatbot, the health insurance agent can come to this chatbot and, let's say, for promotional purposes, their goal is to identify the highest claimants in the data set. So they just choose the data set here, sample health insurance, and they proceed towards asking the question, show me the top individuals with the highest claim amounts. And behind the scenes, the LLM has the context through vectorization and sample data, and it's producing a VQL. And then with the click of a button, within a few seconds, the health insurance agents gets the information that they were looking for. There you have the list of the highest claimants from the data set. Now they have other tools at their disposal as well. They can see what views that have been used, what views that have not been used, which were not relevant. They can also extract the query and pass it to a technical user for building a view or building a dashboard as well. And they can also view the results in a tabular format, which is very useful. So as you can see, it's quite interactive and full of useful features. Now, if they wanted to also add visualization along with the highest claimants, they can just tweak the prompt, as you can see. Just added along with a pie chart with the question, and there you have the option to generate a pie chart as well. So this accelerates, like this is very useful for a business user to visualize and for the business language. Now let's switch to the second conversational consumer, who is a data scientist. Now their goal is to perform more complex tasks, such as analyzing trends, anomalies. These are the why and how questions, causality, correlations, and this would require the deep query feature, which is basically addresses the more complex questions. It takes longer and it's a little bit more expensive, but it's potent at solving this type of problems. So for example, the data scientist wants to know, among all members, how concentrated are total claim amounts in the top claimants, and what percentage of overall claims do the top 5 and 10 members represent? Now, this is quite a complex question. It would require extensive steps and analysis over the data set. And you have the two options here. You can see deep query and ask. Ask is for the regular question that I demonstrated earlier. And here, the data scientist would choose the option of deep query. So basically, once they click the deep query, it performs a multi-step action. It produces this summary on the right-hand side, and on the left-hand side is the comprehensive report, which you can print as well. And this report actually consists of executive summary, it consists of methodology, it consists of visualizations, it consists of all the queries that were used to get to this analysis. So this actually allows the data scientist, or opens the possibility of data scientists to explore data and metadata in a way that they were not able to previously in the data marketplace. And not just that, it reduces their effort of like maybe weeks to get to something like this. And they can reverse engineer this for other purposes as well. So yeah, so this, whatever I just demonstrated in the data marketplace may sound familiar because the AI SDK had the deep query and very similar features, and that is because the embedded chatbot is actually based on the AI SDK. Now, version 1 at the time of recording was the latest version, but now it's 1.1. So from 0.13, there was a feature called ambiguity and tool calling in the AI SDK. So whatever you've seen in the data marketplace from Denodo 9.4 is actually based on a version prior to 0.13. And the reason is because we'll discuss the reason. I just want to provide one more example. This is the other option where you can explore metadata as well through this chatbot. And the configuration part, if we move on to the setup and management, and then we will first take a look at the LLM configuration. That's the first requirement. So you choose a provider. In this case, it's OpenAI. Provide the API key and just choose a model. In this case, let's just say GPT 5.1. And then the thinking provider option is strictly limited to deep query. If you would like to use deep query, you'd need access to a reasoning model. Here in this case, once again, it's OpenAI and it's O4 Mini as the reasoning model. And you can choose to enable this, you can choose to discard it, but just for demonstration purposes, I showed you what's required. And then you need also the configuration of vector database. There are several options here. I've configured PG vector, but you have Oracle 26AI, SQL Server 2025 or higher, GCP Cloud SQL for Postgres, and some others as well. So the next part is the embeddings model configuration. This is also required. And once again, you have a provider and you can choose the embeddings model. Last but not the least, this is enabling the vectorization on the server or servers listed under data marketplace. Here you have a successful green status because I already vectorized it, but initially if you clicked on edit, you'd have this option where you have to enable the server metadata vectorization and provide the username password to that particular VDP, and then you have the option to use sample data. I have provided the LLM I have vectorized 2 rows from each element so that I can get accurate results. As I discussed earlier, the accuracy also depends on providing some sample data. And then you have the option to personalize the chatbot as well. There are different parameters here that allows you to do that. You first enable the chatbot, and then you can choose the number of rows to display. You can choose the number of, define a number to save the number, like a session memory kind of here, number of context messages, like it would remember the last 10 something queries. And you have the possibility to add extra instructions as well. Like I gave you an example, hey, whenever I ask a question about claims, always include their names, the claimants' names and IDs, things like that. And then moving on to permissions, you can also control who has access to the chatbot and the deep query feature. Deep query is quite expensive, so you would want to have some sort of control over there. As you can see on the first column, the roles are listed and you can provide privileges over those roles. Now, this is just to give you a context about the vectorized views that are created in the PG vector with the prefix data marketplace view vectors. You can go and navigate to these views and introspect the vector database tables as well. Okay, now we will switch our attention to the conversational builder, which is the technical user. Once again, we'll use the same data set, sample health insurance. And they have had some excellent features up until now, till 9.4, but we have added on top of that. So for example, they've already had the ability, this is a Denodo engineer, who wants to perform a specific task. But before that, I just want to show like they've had the ability to use the suggest field descriptions, which would generate field descriptions, which is very important for AI purposes as well, to provide context to the LLM, and also in a broader business sense, because you would want to have descriptions over the columns. And you could also generate field names and tags. And right here, I'm generating the view description as well. That option exists. This is also very important as well to know more about what this view entails. And then you had the option to suggest joins. This is just a simple example of 2 views, but you could choose multiple views, and the Denodo engineer would be able to accelerate their development effort instead of like, trying to figure out the connections between the different fields. And in the VQL shell, which they may spend a lot of time on, they've already had the feature of explain and diagnose query. In this query, the claim amount spelling is incorrect. That's an incorrect field. So if you diagnose the query, it would be able to identify and correct it. This is just a simple demonstration of how this feature works. And then, yeah, there you go. It just explained what was wrong. And then you also have the explain query. It tells you basically what this query is about. So yeah, the Denodo engineer has a lot of features to work with. And then generate query from natural language. This is interesting. They choose a database, and let's just say, please show me the individuals with the top 5 claim amounts. Now this feature, they're able to generate a query based on natural language, and then they can repurpose this query to build views. So the LLM is currently generating a query. There you go. Very fast, and with just using natural language, the Denodo engineer was able to get the results. They can validate the results here, and they're happy with it. They can just add create as view statement before the select that was generated by the LLM, and they could build views. This is just one example of how this feature can be used. This is an excellent feature for technical users. Now, what views are related to claims? This is a question that would come from the data architect, who is the other conversational consumer. And with this question, they are able to extract the information about metadata pretty quickly. As you will see, there you go. There's an explanation, and also the view descriptions are here. So this is an excellent tool, because otherwise, to explore metadata, you'd have to use some other tool or navigate through the UI and perform different steps. This accelerates productivity among technical users and their development efforts. And yeah, it just provides them tools that they did not have access to. And as you can see, how useful these tools are for both business and technical users. Moving on to the configuration part of the Conversational Builder, the Denodo assistant in Design Studio. It's quite similar to Data Marketplace. You need an LLM here, and then you have the vector database configuration here, and you have the embeddings model configuration here as well. And then you go to the General tab and you enable the Denodo Assistant feature. You can choose the type of language and whether to use sample data or not. And then you have the custom instruction as well.